Senator Tester.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank you and the ranking member for not only this hearing, but for your great leadership as your terms as chairman and ranking member of this committee. I have a pressing issue to discuss, but I first want to say a few things about the last 16 years that I have served on this committee. I was recently reminded of a story about a 2013 omnibus. During those negotiations, Congress decided to add a provision to that omnibus bill that would allow Monsanto to continue selling GMO products, even though a federal court had ruled that they no longer could do so. Folks referred to this as the Monsanto Protection Act. I was mad, I was upset, and I voted against that omnibus in 2013 to show everybody how upset I was, even though I was an appropriator. After all, we all know, if you're a policymaker, the easiest vote to make is a no vote on a bill that you know is going to pass. The Appropriations Chair, who is a very strong woman, came up to me at the time and on the floor, in fact, in the cloakroom, and said, I don't think you really want to be an appropriator. And I said, why is that? And she said, because you don't support the committee. We do the hard work, we do what we need to do, we negotiate, and you vote against it. I said, well, I do want to remain on the committee. The answer was yes then, and the answer is yes now. Why? Because there is not a better committee in this body when it comes to solving real problems, providing the oversight that's necessary of our federal agencies, and responsibly allocating resources. This committee has always been the best place to have genuine policy debates on virtually any issue. Some of my favorites over the years, and Senator Moran isn't here right now, was the National Bio and Agro Defense Facility, keeping white potatoes on the WIC list, dealing with the wild horse population, fighting back against unnecessary trucking regulations, and discussing the future of our sugar program. I could go on. Hell, even one time we moved a USD agency to West Virginia. But looking back, I do not regret that vote back in 2013 because I have feelings about what GMOs do to family farm agriculture and to the consumer. And besides that, the provision was unconstitutional. But I did learn a valuable lesson about the beauty of the appropriations process. You get some wins, you get some losses, but when this committee is doing its job, you can count on real debates on real issues that are important to Americans. And once you've won a few arguments and once you've lost a few arguments, you should vote for these bills in this committee and when you get on the floor, because this country is better off when Democrats and Republicans in Congress, and particularly on this committee, can compromise and do their work and set a bipartisan example for the rest of the Senate. I think that is more important in this point in time than it has ever been in this country's history, where division is the biggest problem we have in this country, division among us, when we all know we have much more in common than we have what divides us. So I want to root this committee on into the future. You have a lot of really, really important work to do. The folks sitting around this rostrum can do good work. I've seen it before, and I encourage you to do that. Now I want to speak briefly on a pressing disaster issue in my state and two items Congress must include in the disaster package. The first is the Fort Belknap Indian Water Rights Settlement Act, and I want to explain why. And the second is an appropriations to continue repairs on the St. Mary's Canal. Right before the August recess, I spoke to this committee about a catastrophic siphon failure on the St. Mary's Canal, which is a vital part of the Bureau of Reclamation's Milk River project. This catastrophic failure is devastating to the small towns that rely on clean drinking water and hundreds of farmers and ranchers who rely on that project for irrigation. Sadly, this failure is not a surprise. The federal government constructed the Milk River project well over 100 years ago. It is an engineering marvel. And despite solid efforts of local residents to keep up with repairs, the system, which spans hundreds of miles, fell into disrepair. In fact, the siphons literally were held together with duct tape and baling wire. And that's why there is no question that Congress needs to step up and address this disaster and make the necessary improvements to this system to ensure that the next failure just isn't around the corner. The good news is I've got legislation that can accomplish this. It's ready to go, the Fort Belknap Indian Community Water Rights Settlement Act of 2024. Years ago, Fort Belknap Indian Community recognized that the Milk River project was a ticking time bomb that threatened access to clean water across the northern tier of Montana for both Indians and non-Indians. With this in mind, and through their strong leadership, they decided as part of the settlement of their waterment claims with the United States, they would contribute significant funds to the settlement to rebuilding the St. Mary's Canal. As a result, bipartisan bill has already been passed by the Senate twice, this Congress. That's right, twice. The federal legislation is over 2 decades in the making. In fact, I think it's been vetted more than any other bill that I've worked on in the 18 years I've served in the Senate. It is the right bill for this moment, and it's the right time to get it signed into law with an appropriations that continue repairs on the St. Mary's Canal. I don't have any questions today to the witnesses, but I asked that as the disaster package is finalized, that folks in this committee help address our irrigation disaster in Montana. With that, tally ho, friends, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.